What am I and what is addiction? Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. 335, lesson 292, pages 792 and 93. And these are excerpts from my book named after my ministry, TheSovereignLight. And this is a course in metaphysical spirituality. How do you do? My name is Reverend Maria Arvanitides. So glad that you can join me here today. And let's begin, shall we? Sounds good. Take a few deep breaths in. Notice your breathing. Find that inner stillness, center point from within. And breathe it into your heart space center, congregate. And out, vibrate it into your holographic field. And take another deep breath in simultaneously as you do from above, so below, from the soles of your feet. And out. Just decompress for a moment. And say these words out loud. I like to hear you say them with me. The more you participate, the more you will get out of it and see what you can throughout your day. What is stimulating you? When you take some intermittent breaks throughout the day to recalibrate and rejuvenate and see what gets triggered or activated or supported. Use it, this affirmation, and let's begin. Sounds good. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. And take a nice deep breath in. Feel it soaking in. Soak in these words. Absorb them. Release them out. And vibrate these words through the word of the sound. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. Take a nice deep breath in and feel it vibrating every cell within your body, lighting up your telomeres. And feel. Become connected each and every moment with every breath. And sensitive to your body. Feel it. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. Be in that truth. Be in your truth. Just be and receive. Be in this moment. This moment. Surround yourself in your authentic, energetic signature. Allow it. Allow yourself to be through self-care, and accept all of you. All of you is this thing called love. Stand in your truth, own it. Imagine for a moment the flight or fight response was that of ego-based perception, and its perspective carried on as an addiction. When you hide from the truth of who you really are and what it is that you actually prefer, what makes you feel good, stand in that. Empower yourself with it. Could it very well be that the self can only meet up with itself inversebly and to create conflict, thus arising in the need for escapism? And take a few deep breaths in and out. And whenever you're ready, let's say these words out loud. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. And as I disappear into the light, let's continue 792 excerpts, pages 792. Imagine for a moment that all matter and every single object that was previously pulled by the world that it came from and not the other, the subject could then be offset from the opposite world called inverse reality. Just like the self cannot fight gravity, this attraction of two different worlds is plausible around it. And with each having their own gravitational pull, known as magnetism. Actually, this magnetism is known as attraction. You know, when you get this thought and it keeps electrically spinning and spiraling and creating a gravitational pull, when imagining the experience from this artificial craft, perhaps an airplane, in this case it was in reference to an airplane. And, well, when it was falling down, it felt like, for instance, when I'm on a plane, this was my experience. So when we're about to take off, it feels like we're descending just when we're taking off, you know, and we're ascending on the plane, physical containment that is ascending, which is even an elevator. And if it goes fast enough, we feel ourselves descending. And when the plane starts falling in for a landing and takes those dips, we feel ourselves ascending. Anyway, I do. This was my experience that I decided to use here. And this artificial craft, being it's not our body, it's not this spacesuit that we're in. For instance, these birds in the back, these macaque. Well, they are contained, their soul and their spirit within this consciousness that brings them this physical containment. So I suppose when you're actually ascending in this, let's say if I was to be one of these birds ascending, I probably, chances are, wouldn't feel that kind of effect of when the actual craft is ascending and I feel like a dip, like I'm descending. It'd probably be all connected to my senses that I'm actually in fact ascending, and it would feel like it. I would think that anyway, but because these are man-made artificial crafts that we use to like a vehicle around in, is why we probably get that feeling of the opposite, the inverse feeling. So when the plane actually is taking off, you feel like dipping. The same with a roller coaster. And you know, if you ever experienced a roller coaster ride, in any event, when imagining the experience from this artificial craft, which I put airplane, it felt like it was falling down when it was taking off, actually rising up. When it felt like it was ascending, it was falling down, coming in for a landing. This truth was that of the higher and lower self. And those two halves that yearn to find themselves. That the ego mind had always kept them separated. So again, I think I explained myself again here, you know, with our consciousness, and when the soul decides it wants to disconnect from this body and it's time to recycle, and what you find is that kind of bonkers disconnect in the brain too, that you know, when it short circuits and you see all these like springs coming out of your head and all these things, and you just kind of that's the disconnect, and then off we go into the next reality of consciousness and awareness that is spirit. And so with every breath that we create this torque, this field, this reality, this holographic field, this tube torus as they call it in the New Age. And so when we separate from it, this reality, then you know, it's the ego mind that filters through and compares, well, this is this, that is that, and all the physical reality that is made to, in the illusion of, this is real, because we are filtering it through our five senses. And so the disconnect from its wholeness in this way of consciousness had created much for its despair and longing to reach out to find. And from the outside of the self, the illusion had begun. What's going on here? Right? Oh, this illusion was always about enslavement and the worship through much sacrifice. It brought over with this its many religions passed down through history, and all ego mind driven. The love for power was not love at all, rather an ego mind driven lusting beast to admire as beautiful, while everything around it had begun to become so ugly, like a snowball effect, into bigger and bigger and just totally ugly, into a big giant monster that had destroyed and reconstructed over everything in its path compared to, and likewise judged. Page 793. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. The worship to enslave and restrain all that was wholesome to its cause, and this continued on as the effect. The only relief that could be found, its imposed reality from the outside, was in the relevance for a temporary artificial high and finally intended as a means to escaping from the self. From the lush, beautiful green valleys where once it knew of and where the energy was high and loving. When the peaceful high was over, and along with it the many who were still remaining to be nice had changed to worry and fear. These rules of gravity and magnetism diffuse, spread out, and all that is there is the sovereignty of regenerated, elevated self. There is nothing left to fight or run away from within the natural order of oneness will diffuse, dissolving all others that had once held the self bound up and codependent to its disconnection. Remember the life of peace and understanding that had once radiated from the heart out into this place of oneness as community, heaven on earth. This rhythm of peace and love can once again be restored in the exchange as the echo of its currency. The practice of self-care can be most challenging. And just maybe today the practice can be about such experience in any way and as best it can be to accomplish. Find the force from within and be sovereign within this light awakened. The purpose is to find the love that enriches into atonement, discover the lush, beautiful green valleys where once it knew of and where the energy was high and loving. And I will leave you with today's affirmation. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. Through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care. I can accept all that love has to offer for myself through self-care.